The Rockets have an obvious plan for anyone paying attention. Why would they hire a head coach with so much baggage? You know, Udoka got fired for having an improper relationship. Matt Barnes said it's worse than anyone can imagine. Even the Nets tried to hire him, but backed out. Too toxic for the Nets? Plus, Udoka won in Boston with a veteran roster. The Rockets are a bunch of kids. It makes no sense. Unless they're cooking up something big. Udoka has personal relationships with two very big stars. He was an assistant in Brooklyn with James Harden. He was head coach in the Celtics with Jaylen Brown. In fact, Jaylen was May's #1 supporter through all the drama. He said he was shocked when they let him go. He was great in our locker room. He was a leader in our locker room. I want to see him back on his feet. I said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't feel bad for saying that. And you know who saw that quote? The Rockets owner, Tillman Fertitta. Jaylen will be a free agent at the exact time. Houston has more cap space than anyone. Is it a coincidence they hired his favorite head coach? No. And a report said the owner brought up James Harden to every coach they interviewed. The Rockets want to build a super team. But two things can derail their plan. The problem is they can't control if Harden or Brown is going to leave their current team. But there are reasons that they would. For Harden, you would think it's winning a championship and getting paid. So all Phil he has to do is win big and they keep him, right? Maybe not. Adrian Wojnarowski just said something that makes every Sixers fan nervous. James Harden's future is very unclear in Philadelphia. Houston is very much in play for him, and I think a lot may depend on, do they make a run and win and it's easy to pay him, or he just wants to be back and he said win or lose he goes. Win or lose? You mean this man could get a chip, get paid the max, and be playing with Joel Embiid and still want to leave? They should make a mayor of Houston at that point, but that's hard to believe. I mean, if the Sixers are successful, there's a really good chance Harden stays, but will they be? I mean, look at the difference between games 1 and 2 against the Celtics. Without Joel Embiid in game 1, James Harden looked like an Embiid and won on the road. Is there any chance that Harden looks at that and says, man, in the biggest game? Joel Embiid just takes up so much of the offense I can't be myself. But Jaylen Brown is a different story. If he makes All-NBA, the Celtics can offer him a supermax, and rumors say that is the only way he stays in Boston. That would allow them to pay Jaylen $100 million more than if he's not All-NBA. $100 million is enough for him to forget that they tried to trade him for Kevin Durant twice. Otherwise, he's gone. The All-NBA teams will be announced near the end of May, and there's a good chance he makes it. But you never know. So the Rockets want to create a Jaylen Brown, James Harden Big Two, but they might not even get the chance. But there's one other option to build a contender. The owner, Tillman Fertitta, told the media. It's phase 2 of our rebuild. Phase 2 is getting back to the playoffs and learning how to win again. I'm expecting a lot out of my coaching gene. Oh no, pressure, guys. I mean, when your boss says something like that out in public, you start to worry about your job security. Like you have got to make the playoffs. So how does the GM do that? The Rockets have a ton of assets for big trades and signings, $60 million in cap space. That is more than any other team. That's enough for 2 max contracts, even if it isn't James Harden and Jaylen Brown. They also have good young players and picks to trade. A report said they have discussed internally dealing Jalen Green and their pick for a star. It's still possible to create a dangerous team in the West. It starts with trading for Karl Anthony Towns, Zach LaVine, or Paul George. I've seen other names out there like Agnano, but Towns, LaVine, and PG are all on teams that might want to move them and recent All-Stars. Or they could trade for like Mikal Bridges without including a pick. Those are all win-now moves. Look, Jalen Green is good, but he's not helping them win games. He averaged like 22 points last year on horrible efficiency. The only reason people like him is his potential. But if he doesn't get better, then he's a volume scorer, which is another term for selfish. Then his value in the trade sucks. But after they make that trade, they focus on signing a really good player. And one report says they are targeting Chris Middleton. I know fans hear that name and they think he's overrated. But he's at least good enough to be a championship #2. That is hard to find. The Bucks might hesitate to pay him because of injuries and losing on the first round. If that happens, the Rockets can take advantage. Now, he's a restricted free agent, which means the Bucks can match any offer. But there are guys who the Rockets can get. Unrestricted free agents like Kyrie Irving, Jeremy Grant, Fred VanVleet, Draymond Green, Dylan Brooks, Brook Lopez, and Harrison Barnes. they could sign 2 or 3 of those guys, or add a restricted player like Cam Johnson or Austin Reeves. So you can see how they could make a really good team overnight. But why? Are they rushing it? I mean, why not just keep sucking to get really high draft picks? Because they actually can't build through the draft. Back in 2019, they made one of the dumbest trades of all time. The Rockets dealt Chris Paul and picks to get Russell Westbrook. That means they still owe control of their next 3 drafts to OK. It makes no difference if they're bad or not. Now, those picks are top 4 protected, but they could easily lose a bunch of games, but then fall out of the top 4, and all of that was for nothing. Like, why not just try to win now? They have no choice but to make the playoffs. Now, the good news is Houston owns control of the next draft, the next 4 years from the James Harden trick. So from 2024 to 2020. But speaking of the draft, there is one other league-altering option. What if the unthinkable happens on May 16th? That is the day the NBA will hold the draft lottery. When we find out who gets Victor Wembanyama, the Rockets have tied for the best odds at that number 1 pick. They could see their name selected, and their whole world changes. Who cares if you don't get James Harden? They get the best prospects since LeBron James, or they could have James Harden, Jaylen Brown, and Wembanyama. Talk about a super team. Houston could be the most exciting team in the NBA by the start of next season. Unless their nightmare scenario comes true, there is a world where every plan blows up in their face and they're left with nothing. What if they fall way down this draft to number 4? Then James Harden and Jaylen Brown re-sign with their teams. Then no big free agent wants to go there, and they're left paying guys like Kyle Kuzma or Harrison Barnes. No offense. That would mean they are stuck with a young team that just won 22 games and vets on bad contracts. There's no other team you should watch more this offseason than the Rockets. But that's not as wild as the first round of these NBA playoffs. I mean, who saw the number 8 seed Heat losing in the play-in to the Hawks, but then beating the Bucks? I sure didn't see it.